In 1850, the Ville became one of the first black communities west of the Mississippi River.
Originally known as Ellardsville after the founder of the neighborhood, Charles Ellards,
the Ville was sectioned off in the mid-19th century with current street boundaries Taylor Avenue, Sarah Street, St. Louis Avenue, and Dr. Martin Luther King Drive.
Home to icon stars such as Chuck Berry, Tina Turner, and one of the first African-American millionaires, Annie Malone.
The Ville thrived during the 1920s and 30s.
The film that you are about to see is a collection of stories and memories from the past.
A historical neighborhood captured in minutes by apprentices from St. Louis ArtWorks
And the everyday people who live in it.
The Ville in particular is a neighborhood in the west side of the city and is literally a square. And you have different places such as Homer G. Phillips that was once a hospital but now is a senior citizens home. You also have Sumner, the school not that far away from it, and you also have a recreational center known as Tandy's. I also still think that people can come and visit this place as if it was a historical site and make it more than what people look at it as it is now.
When I was growing up, the center of the activity in our community was concentrated at Tandy Community Center. Tandy Community Center was the site of old Negro baseball games. Tandy Community Center was the place where Sumner High School played its basketball games. Huge numbers of kids would flock to Tandy Community Center after school to play basketball, to box, to lift weights, to do handicrafts and things like that.
The people who lived in the Ville were, I think, very conscious about their kids, about what they were doing, how they're being raised, how they're being educated. I can remember that several times I got home and got disciplined, spanked if you will, because some of the neighbors had seen me doing XYZ and called home before me, identifying what I had done. So,
living in the Ville was an experience that we'll probably never do again. That is the togetherness of the neighborhoods, the friendliness of the neighbors, as well as the caring for each other, the caring for people, and the ability to work together cohesively.
When I lived in the Ville, the area where I lived was like a small village. It was called Belglade. All of the families knew each other. All of the families attended church. All of the kids attended either in grade school, either Simmons or St. Matthews.
The Ville changed basically when integration of the schools came in. Prior to that time, we were a sort of a together community.
a lot of the change, I think, that took place in the Ville was caused by changes that were going on in other parts of the cities. Things like uprooting a number of people who had to move. There was probably some not such good feelings having been forced out of the areas that they lived in at that point in time.
Homer G. Phillips Hospital was an engine. It was of a medical, scientific, and financial generation. Generated dollars. It generated technicians that went all over the world, y'all. I want you to hear this. The doctors left Meharry and Howard University, and they came to Homer G. Phillips. So this hospital, teaching hospital, had a worldwide reputation. And when the city ended it, they thought they were getting rid of a burden on their budget. What they did was they destroyed an industry that will never be replaced.
The Ville is a village. And villages really, when you, in the context of travel explanations or definitions, is everything that you need to live. And when you look at the Ville, had health care, care for orphans, education, that dealt with your capacity to live a life. We had to promote, really have to market the existence of the Ville, the circa or the advent of its manifestation into educating a whole group of folks that still operate today. And the apathy of the population now has to be dealt with. And apathy doesn't spell defeat. It opens up an opportunity for them to grow. And the subculture of drugs that tries to permeate the neighborhood, you can control it too, with opportunities. But you got to start early education.
We had on Eastern Avenue during those times. Oh, yeah. And the 5 and 10 cent stores. When we graduated, we got a job at the 5 and 10 cent store. They were hiring at Sticksbury and Fuller would not hire you unless you were very, very light. My sister, oldest sister, was dark. She wanted to run the elevator. My sister was the first, as we said, colored, they said colored then, Afro-American to work on the elevator. And I stood by the escalator and said, "Watch your step, please." And I was so proud of myself. Families were close, and we had parents that cared. And if you want to do the right thing, they would step forward for us. I think about Freddie and his family. They live very close to us. Freddie's not going to tell you. Everyone in his family excelled. Brilliant people. But his parents were the backbones. It comes from home.
Poro College was, Malone was one of the first black women who was a millionaire, and a school there to teach beauticians. She donated the land for the Annie Malone Children's Home. I became director of the Annie Malone Children's Home in around 70. And for a couple of years I was director there. That was for dependent and neglected children. After I left there, I became superintendent of Missouri Hill School for Boys. That was a school for delinquent youngsters. We had 100 boys there. But anyway, this all took place right in the Ville area.
The Ville is a subdivision in North St. Louis. And it's a very rich and significant part of St. Louis history. I know that the Ville seemed like it was a fun place to grow up. And also, it was high in education. I felt that it was a lot of history that needed to be, said. Sumner High School, to me, is it's a significant place in the Ville because a lot of now superstars came from it, such as Chuck Berry and Tina Turner and whatnot. So the Ville has changed. More so of as time progressed, I guess people started progressing, and but the history is still there. I feel that you are part of what it was back then.
Ms. Imes, do you live around here in the Ville?
No, I live in North St. Louis City.
North St. Louis City. What made you want to come out to talk to us about the Ville?
Well, this neighborhood has so many memories for me. I was born right down the street, 4129 Kennerly. And my father, Ed Lathan, this is a picture of him. And he was in World War II. He was drafted in World War II. And like I told you, I was born in 1941. And he was one of the first black milk men for Peevely Dairy. And I went to Sumner High School. And I can remember by then we had moved on Maffitt. We moved on up, as the sitcom was, moved on up to the east side, but we moved up to 4500 block on Maffitt. And now that block had whites in it. And they, of course, made an exodus as blacks began to move in. But we still would come to the Ville to go to church and take piano lessons. We would still walk down to Antioch Baptist Church and to Alita Ward Wells.
Can you tell me, what did you mean by elite blacks? Was there like a separate classes of blacks back then?
Right.
Or,
Doctors, lawyers, teachers. Many times when they used to have the Y Circus here, some of the entertainers had to stay with the blacks over in that area because they were not allowed to stay in the hotels, and so they stayed with some of the people that lived in the area.
How was education throughout the Ville?
Oh, the education was wonderful. Went to Marshall School, and after we graduated from Marshall, we went to Sumner High School. From Sumner High School, we walked across the street to Stowe College.
Like, what did you major in after you graduated?
Education.
Education.
And I've always wanted to be a teacher. And now from Sumner High School, from Stowe College, I went to in later years to University of Missouri to receive my master's.
Did you teach throughout the Ville? Like, did you go back to the schools that you went to as a kid and teach?
No, I came back to Turner Middle as a remedial reading teacher. Yes, I did. Full circle to Turner Middle as a remedial reading teacher. And then they opened the integrated schools. And they wanted some principals to volunteer to help integrate the schools.
Okay.
Since my dad brought us all up to say we're equal,
Right.
I was brave. I said, I'll go.
You know, segregation, well, I'll say integration, had its good points, but it also separated us because when it was segregated, we all went to neighborhood schools. And like others said before me, I think, that we were really a community. We didn't have a lot of problems because everybody in the neighborhood went to the same school. They could go next door and get help with their homework. The parents were out on their porches to meet us, walking to and from school. So I just think when they integrated the schools, that's when some things kind of went crazy.
Mrs. Henderson, do you live around the Ville?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me where around the Ville?
I stayed on Whittier, and right at Whittier, and now it's been a long time. It was Whittier and Martin Luther King. If I was going to school now, I would rather be at Sumner than some of the others. I don't know what the educational field has done, but I think it's more political now. A lot of it is politicalism, but I would rather be back there.
Like, what was there to do back then?
Well, let's see. It was one thing that Sumner had each year, and everybody, all the kids would look forward to. And I think it was called the May Festival. It was just so good to be going to school. It was just fun. I don't know why children don't enjoy school now, but I guess there's so much other stuff to take it away, but you didn't want to miss a day. If you missed a day, you felt something was taking place or something was going on. I love Sumner. I think some of us I know my parents had briefed me on that change would come, but they didn't never say what they thought it would be or anything of the sort, like that.
Right.
But they did say change would come. And it came.
Being raised in the Ville since I was 8, I've seen this community come from nothing to an actual topic that me and my colleagues would like to talk about. I would like people to know that this community does exist and that the history here in this community will always be here.
Well, quite honestly, I'm working with a cadre of people just like the cadre that I worked with to get it declared a historic district locally, and we're still working toward national historic designation for many of the buildings that were listed in the local designation. That was February 1986. It was really a 16-year process to even get it done locally. I'm working with a cadre of about 12 people to examine really the reuses of the buildings. And when I say the reuse of the buildings, I'm talking about the school buildings that have historic significance. A lot of people dismiss the fact that the Ville is a product of planning that began in the 1890s. And it was an illustration that black people have the capacity to plan for ourselves, to do for ourselves, and create an economy. After desegregation, though, that was decimated pretty much. And in my opinion, you came up with a mindset of, disinvestment. And we got to reinvest in it. Yeah, the Ville's got a future. It just takes all of us to put it back together again.
The work that was done in the Ville by the modern-day celebrities and by everyday citizens that populated it is something that time seems to have forgotten.
But we want to remember, strive to build upon, and share with the world how close we hold this piece of St. Louis to our hearts.
We are here standing on the shoulders of those that came before us.
Where will the next Ville be? Is there one in your backyard?